Who would win in a battle between Kakashi and Gojo? Thank you to Fitz for the request. Unlike most showdowns, this battle is particularly interesting because AP has absolutely no bearing on the outcome. The only variables that really need to be considered are hacks and speed. The reason being, both characters have forms of durability negation, and speed means very little to characters like Gojo, as he has his illustrious infinity. What's special about Gojo's automatic Zeno's paradox-like ability, as explained in Jump Giga 2021, when his editors had special grade mathematicians discuss the technique, was its involvement with Riemann theorem. It essentially means that Gojo can rearrange space such that he creates a literal infinite space around him. And a lot of people like to misrepresent the first statements about Gojo's infinity, but in chapter 69, Akutami specifically expresses how his intention was to explain an ability such that it could be concluded its series would not have an end, repeating that nobody's supposed to reach the end, right? Being confused himself at the notion that an infinite series could have an end, saying what the hell? Why? With all things considered, not only does this mean that Gojo has an infinite degree of spatial manipulation, we know that this sort of thing is consistent within JJK, which is why I'm so willing to accept it, seeing as he's able to manipulate cursed energy to an infinite degree, which has already been substantiated via his infinite cursed energy efficiency statement, which is actually correctly translated, might I add, on top of the infinite information manipulation. So to beat Gojo, Kakashi would either have to travel above finite speeds or have an ability that can bypass infinity and unalive Gojo in spite of his absurd regeneration using reverse curse technique. To this, people usually respond with Kamui as a possible win con, Kamui being a technique that spawns a singularity within a barrier space that draws its target in and can be used to unalive Gojo. To that, I'd ask you, in a battle of finite versus infinite spatial manipulation, who wins? The answer to me, and I think to most, should logically be that the infinite degree of spatial manipulation would be greater than the finite degree of spatial manipulation. So I don't think Kamui could get past it. With all things considered, the only other option would be for Kakashi to be infinite speed or greater. However, not only does barrier mode contradict the notion of such speed existing in the series, with a finite amount of time passing when Ishiki is desperately trying to catch Kawaki, we see during the war arc, Jubidara believes that his attacks are faster than Kamui's transmission speed typically. The problem is, when Obito and Kakashi use the same technique simultaneously, it's stated that the speed of this technique doubles. Somehow a 2 times, but more importantly, finite multiplier of speed is able to counteract Jubidara's advantage in speed, implying that his speed is also finite, as a degree of infinity is not necessary to bridge the gap. I definitely think during the war arc, DMS Kakashi should be in the Rel plus 2 FTL ranges of speed, and therefore would ordinarily be faster than Gojo, but since that's not actually enough to bypass infinity, Gojo would simply pull Kakashi in, slow him down to the point that he could be erased with Hollow Purple or a domain expansion.